So, this lecture explores two fundamental aspects of psychology: states of consciousness and the mechanisms of sensation and perception. First, we're going to take a look at states of consciousness. So, consciousness is the awareness of the sensations, thoughts, and feelings we experience at any given moment. Consciousness is our subjective understanding of both the environment around us and our private internal world. Dreams, sleep, and hypnosis, these are topics that provide fascinating insights into understanding human consciousness. Drug use is the other significant topic in this unit relevant to our daily lives. So when we're talking about stimuli, okay, we're talking about internal or external. So internal stimuli, these are feelings of pain, hunger, thirst, sleepiness, and being aware of our thoughts and emotions. When we talk about external, this is how we perceive or see the light from the sun, feel like warmth of a room, or hearing a friend's voice. In addition to normal waking awareness, consciousness comes to us in altered states, including like meditation, daydreaming, sleeping, and drug induced hallucinations. So, why do we sleep? Why do you think we sleep? Okay. So, we sleep for a number of variety of reasons. So our sleep patterns differ from actual person to person and from culture to culture. So the reasons why we sleep are complex and involve multiple functions that support our overall health and well-being. Okay. So the following are some well-known theories that explain the possible benefits of sleep. So, first, sleep protects. So, this theory, sometimes referred to as the evolutionary or adaptive theory of sleep, suggests that sleep serves as a protective role, like keeping humans and animals safe during times when it's dangerous or ineffective to be active, like nighttime. So, staying inactive during dark periods may have actually helped early humans avoid predators or accidents. So another reason why we sleep is sleep helps us recover. Okay, this idea aligns with like the restorative sleep theory. This suggests that sleep is a time for the body to repair itself. During deep sleep, tissues are repaired and muscle growth occurs. Okay, so it helps us to recover, helps our body to recover. Sleep helps us to remember. Sleep is essential for memory consolidation. So during sleep, particularly during REM sleep and slow wave sleep, the brain processes and organizes information from that particular day. This helps us convert that short-term memory into long-term memory, making sleep crucial for learning and retaining information. The next one is sleep feeds creative thinking. So, sleep actually enhances creativity and problem solving abilities. And then sleep supports growth. Okay, so sleep is crucial for like growth and development, particularly during childhood and adolescence. So, during sleep, the body releases growth hormones, which is vital for physical development, muscle repair, and overall cellular rejuvenation. So even in adulthood, sleep continues to play a role in maintaining physical health by regulating hormone levels. So this is why babies sleep, because it supports growth. So babies have to get the adequate amount of growth because they are growing rapidly during this particular time. Okay. So let's take a look at sensation and perception. These are two closely related processes that involve the senses and the brain. So we use sensation and perception to understand the world around us. So take a look at this particular passage that's here on the screen. I want you to go ahead and try to read it. Okay. I'll give you a couple of seconds. You can go ahead and pause the recording if you need to. Okay. So if you can read it, It's really stating that according to research at Cambridge University, it doesn't matter what order the letters in the word are. The only important thing is that the first and the last letter be in the right place. So this was found, this is a paragraph that was found as a letter written like in 1999 by a man named Graham Rollins. He was actually a specialist in child development and educational psychology. He actually wrote this a letter to a magazine called New Scientist magazine in response to an article that was written about effects of reversing short chunks of speech. Okay, good job. So I want you guys to imagine, right, that you're standing on a city street corner. So you might be amazed by the movement everywhere as the cars and people go about their business, by the sound of the street musician's clarinet, by the smell of the exhaust fumes, or of the food being sold by a nearby vendor, and by the sensation of the hard pavement under your feet. Okay. This tells us that we rely on our sensory systems to provide important information about our actual surroundings. So we use this information to successfully navigate and interact with our environment so that we can find nourishment, we can seek that shelter, maintain social relationships, and avoid potentially dangerous situations. So moving on, let's talk about the sensations, right? It refers to that process by which our sensory organs detect and respond to external stimuli from the environment, right? And like I said, that could be that internal or external. So some of the key aspects of sensation is thresholds. So sensory thresholds, this refers to the minimal level of stimulus intensity required for detection. These thresholds can vary across individuals and sensory modalities. Okay. So for example, the absolute threshold for hearing is the quietest sound that can be detected by the human ear. So as soon as you hear something, that means that that particular that particular sound has crossed your absolute threshold. Or the moment you see something that has crossed your absolute threshold. Okay. So another key aspect of sensation is adaptation. Sensory adaptation, this is the key aspect of sensory processing as it plays a fundamental role in shaping our perception and the world around us. So, uh, sorry about that. Let's look at absolute threshold here. Okay, let's talk about absolute threshold. So, let's imagine that you're in a game show, okay, called Can You Sense It? All right, talking about your senses. Let's say that you're blindfolded and a host plays a sound, but it's so soft you can't tell if it's real. Then they play it again just a little louder, and suddenly, bam, you hear it. So that moment is your absolute threshold. The very first point when you notice something that's actually there. Okay. Our bodies are constantly working behind the scenes to pick up tiny signals. Okay. So these real life examples show you how sensitive our senses can be. Okay. So let's look at sensory adaptation. Here we have an example of sensory adaptation. So the pictures show a person in cold water. You see these people, I guess they call it ice swimming. So when they first dive into the water, it may be cold at first, right? But after prolonged time in the water, they adjust to the temperature and that they're no longer cold. So that's sensory adaptation. Okay. And there's another example here. So you see over time, the sound seems to fade in the background or completely is unnoticeable. So that buzzing sound, at first it may be irritating to the lady on the picture, but after prolonged time and exposure to that, she becomes adapted to it. All right. Can you guys think of any other sensory adaptation examples? Good. So I want you guys to think of an emotional experience in your life. Okay. The experience does not have to be necessarily like a sad one. It can be something that brings about good memories. And think about the scent. Okay. What scent reminds you of that situation? So this is about your smell sensory system, okay? So my example, I want you guys to think about your example, is smelling fresh baked bread reminds me of my grandmother and when we used to cook biscuits together, homemade biscuits together. So that's a good memory for me. So I want you guys to think of a good memory or whatever type of memory that a smell brings about. Okay, good. Let's move on to perception. So how perception is how sensory information is organized, interpreted, and experienced. So this is the brain's interpretation of the sensory information to give it like meaning. So perception refers to the process of organizing, like I say, interpreting and making sense of that sensory information received from our environment. It involves the brain's ability to integrate various sensory inputs and construct a meaningful understanding of the world around us. Perception goes beyond just simple sensation, as it involves like that higher level cognitive processes that shape our subjective experience of reality. Perception is inherently subjective, as it reflects each individual's unique perspective, experiences, and cognitive biases. So, two people may perceive the same stimulus differently based on their perceptual interpretations and their past experiences. Okay, so take a look at that picture here on the slide. You see that both people are looking at that particular glass. One sees the glass half empty and one sees it half full. So that's your perception, and that's subjective because no two people probably see the same thing. Okay. So principles of perception. Let's talk about unintentional blindness. This is a psychological phenomenon where people fail to notice something that is in plain sight because their attention is focused on something else. It happens when we are so focused on a specific task or object that we miss other things that are going on around us, even if it's there, if it's obvious. Okay. Thank you so much for listening. You guys have a wonderful day.